It's a very beautiful day, great day for Nigeria and wonderful day for Nigerians. We're celebrating Democracy Day. We've got all it takes to give you that special feel, to make you feel really special, because it's special in every sense of the word. We've got everything lined up for you to deliver this morning on the breakfast show here on iBrand Daybreak. I'm not doing it alone, of course. I've got with me here my professional colleague, Margaret Opara. Good morning.
Good morning, Michael. Thank
Do you feel what I feel?
Yeah, it's an amazing one. No, it's the most anticipated show of the week because
we've been promoting it all
yeah,
the time, and today's the D-Day.
Exactly, and we feel excited to be with you in I'm excited to be with you in the studio, and I'm excited you're joining us live to share in our joy and sharing everything we have for you today. So today is not going to be business as usual. It's not just the normal news updates, paper review, social media boards.
And all they have to do is just to stay there and get it all coming their way.
Of course, but then our news updates is very important, and we just go straight into the news update now. Now, the federal government has declared Monday, June 14th as public holiday to mark the 2021 Democracy Day. The Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Interior, Dr. Shai Belgo, said this in a statement in Abuja. Belgo said the Minister of Interior, Rauf Aregbesola, made the declaration on behalf of the federal government. Aregbesola congratulated Nigerians on the occasion and urged all citizens to support the present administration in its efforts at ensuring a united and prosperous nation.
Imo State Police Command says it has arrested 9 suspects in connection with the attack on the country home of Governor Hope Uzodinma. Also, the command disclosed that it has arrested suspected native doctor who prepares charms for fighters of Eastern Security Network, ESN. This disclosure was made through a statement by the State Police spokesman, Bala Elkanah, and made available to newsmen.
Now, the monarchs in the 4 local government area of Akoko land of Ondo State have reiterated their call that the remains of the founder of the Synagogue Church of All Nations, Pastor Temitope Joshua, be buried in his hometown, Abigidi, Akoko. The family of the deceased, who are in Lagos to make the decision on the burial arrangement of the late cleric, said the decision would be taken at a family meeting. The monarchs and the community leader in the 4 local governments held a meeting in Oka, Akoko, the headquarters of Akoko Southwest local government area, where they resolved that the interment of the late pastor should be held in the hometown.
The House of Representatives has called on the federal government to collaborate with the Niger State government to secure the rescue of over 130 students of Islamaya, students of Saliu Tanko Islamic School, Taikina, in Rafi local government area of the state, abducted on May the 30th, 2021. While calling on the government to reject the security architecture to combat the growing insecurity in Nigeria, the House urged security agencies to deploy aircraft and drones to hotbeds of crimes in the country, especially Niger. Their call was sequel to a motion unanimously adopted by the lawmakers.
The former Ivorian President Laurent Gbagbo is expected to land in Abidjan on June 17 on a commercial flight from Brussels, where he has resided since the acquittal in late March of crimes against humanity by the International Criminal Court, ICC. According to his spokesman, the former Ivorian president's arrival symbolizes reconciliation and will reunite Ivorians. Negotiations on the conditions of his return after a 10-year absence have been taking place in recent weeks between Laurent Gbagbo's party and the government. Gbagbo was acquitted by the ICC in 2019, and an appeal against the ruling failed in March, opening the way for his return.
A French court has sentenced the 28-year-old man who slapped President Emmanuel Macron to 18 months in prison, 14 of which were suspended. Despite the ruling, the man will only spend 4 months in prison after the court suspended 14 months from the ruling. The man, named Damien Tarrell, has been in custody since the incident on Tuesday. The long-haired resident of the village of Saint-Villa, who has no fixed profession, is passionate about medieval history and martial arts and shouted an old royalist slogan as he struck the president. His friend, named Arthur C., was arrested at the same time, having filmed the slap, but will not be charged over the incident.
All right, now that wraps it up for us on the news update. Up next, we'll be taking our paper review. We have the guests in the studio, which you will meet after the short break. Stay with us.
Swift Dry Cleaners Limited, professional dry cleaners, best in dry cleaning and laundry services, and meets the needs of our consumers. Yeah, Swift Dry Cleaners Limited. Swift Dry Cleaners Limited. Swift Dry Cleaners Limited. Yeah. Swift Dry Cleaners Limited. Yeah, for clean wash and quick delivery. Yeah, Swift Dry Cleaners Limited. Swift Dry Cleaners Limited. Swift Dry Cleaners Limited. Swift Dry Cleaners Limited. For clean wash and quick delivery. Ooh.
Swift Dry Cleaners. Clean wash.
Nigeria on the march again.
On the march again.
Looking for Mr. President.
On the march again.
MKO is our man. Oh.
Political history in Nigeria cannot be complete without reference to June 12, 1993. This day is significant for two reasons. First, it was the day the first presidential election was held since the military coup of 1983. And second, it marked the day the freest and fairest election was said to have been conducted in Nigeria under the watch of local and international observers. The election was contested between two political parties, the National Republican Convention (NRC), which chose Bashir Tofa as candidate, and the Social Democratic Party (SDP), which presidential candidate was Moshood Kashimawo Olawale Abiola, simply called MKO. Bashir Tofa was an indigene of Kano State in northern Nigeria, while MKO hailed from Ogun State in southwest Nigeria. Both candidates were Muslims by faith. Before the results of the June 12, 1993 presidential election became officially certified, African Elections Database had announced that Moshood Abiola won with 8,243,209 votes, while his opponent Bashir Tofa scored 5,982,087. Abiola was presumed to have won majority votes in 20 of the then 30 Nigerian states, thereby securing the constitutionally required tally to be declared winner, but this never happened. Instead, on June 23, 1993, in a national broadcast by the then military head of state Ibrahim Babangida, the results of the election were annulled. Subsequently, on August 27, 1993, Babangida stepped aside, making way for an interim national government headed by Ernest Shonekan, who, like Abiola, is an indigene of Ogun State. 3 months later, in November 1993, the interim government was overthrown by another military general, Sani Abacha. On June 11, 1994, Abiola declared himself president of Nigeria. This was met with instant resistance by the then military government, which declared Abiola wanted and accused him of treason.
Chief MKO Abiola flagrantly perpetuated acts which breached the laws of the land, but government in its magnanimity never gave him serious attention. His most recent action of declaring himself the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria incited the public to insurrection and attempting to topple the government by force with a view to installing himself as president, however led to his arrest by the law enforcement agents.
He was later arrested on June 23, 1994 and put into custody on the orders of General Sani Abacha, who detained him for 4 years in solitary confinement. Finally, on July 7, 1998, Abiola died the same day he was due to be freed from detention. In memory of MKO Abiola, the presumed winner of Nigeria's freest and fairest election, the June 12, 1993 presidential election, President Muhammadu Buhari conferred on him Nigeria's highest national honors, as well as declared June 12 Democracy Day and a public holiday.
MKO is the man.
Okay, it's now time for us to bring you headlines on some of today's Nigerian dailies here on Daybreak, the special edition. And we have right here in the house to help us analyze and trash out some of the issues raised on today's front page stories. Debo Adeniro, who is the executive chairman, CACOL, and we specially welcome you to the show this morning.
Thank you very much.
Good morning.
And good morning.
Welcome to the show.
Yes, my pleasure.
All right, we are kicking off with the Vanguard. At the topmost portion of the paper, $1.5 billion Lagos-Ibadan rail line will create wealth, business opportunities. Buhari. U.S. government slams federal government over traitor suspension. Insecurity. Buhari reiterates shoot-aside order. And why Nigeria is exporting 430 megawatts to 4 ECOWAS countries. Federal government and a CBN to introduce digital currency before year end. Still on Vanguard, with a banner headline there, outrage as Buhari throws herders crisis back at governors. We go further down, Democracy Day. Federal government declares Monday public holiday. Suspected herdsmen kill 11 in Benue.
All right, now moving on to the Nation paper. The top says why South governors called for dialogue by Okowa. Page 6 has that story. An APC convention can't hold before the fourth quarter. Congress gets date. 5.5 billion naira LPG inland terminal project to take off in Ondo. An army redeploys 11 generals in major shakeup. Now, moving on, Monday is public holiday, and next story, Igongon Oyo rejects security architecture. Now, the top story says about insecurity, shoot on sites, still in force, says Buhari. President inaugurates Lagos-Ibadan rail. Some will lose security equipment. Maritime security project takes off. Lagos mention not reference to Tinubu. Moving on, US seeks reversal of Twitter suspension. Digital currency coming, says the Central Bank of Nigeria.
To the Daily Sun right away, Papa gridlock disappears as Buhari visits Lagos ports, inaugurates Deep Blue project. Man who slapped French president gets 4-month prison sentence. Again, Buhari restates shoot-aside order with riders there, directs a military to deal ruthlessly with criminals. Illegal bearers of AK-47 vows to restore cattle routes, grazing areas, Ohaneze, Middle Belt, Masop, ADF, Huriwa. Others react. Anambra Guba We can't dabble into partisan politics, Ohaneze.
Now to Nigerian Tribune, Buhari moves to resuscitate cattle routes, grazing reserves. Declares IPOB is like a dot in a circle, it has nowhere to go. Tells government to secure their state. Now PDP Afenifere fought him. Now page 1 has that story. Restriction of Nigerians from reporting, disseminating information has no place in democracy, US tells the federal government. Now the State of the Nation, the top story says, after 8 hours meeting, Obasanjo Abdulsalami Oni Sultan orders meet Buhari. Afenifere Ohaneze Ndigbo, ACF, NLC leaders in attendance. Insecurity, our people are now afraid to visit their farms. Coming from Fireme and El Rufai, page 3 and 4 has that story. Now, Ondo Partners firm commences 5.5 billion LPG terminal, kicks off palm oil revolution. Catholic bishops wants Sharia law removed from 1999 constitution. Again, suspected herdsmen abduct 4 in Lagos Ijebu-Ode Road, kill 11 in Benue. Federal government declares Monday public holiday to celebrate June 12th. And now to the right, to my right of the paper says, or your PDP, ex-deputy governor Akombi Babalola, others call for the solution of party exco. Recovered assets, the federal government opens bid, over 2,000 auctioneers apply. Reps move to bar bank employees from operating foreign accounts. And lastly, Buhari in Lagos inaugurates Lagos-Ibadan Railway, the Master Deep Blue project, with riders saying as Sanwo-Olu hands over 150 double cabin vehicles, 30 patrol vehicles, 1,000 wow turkeys, orders to police. Page 2 has that story.
All right. With that, we come to the end of Papers Review. But we're not closing the curtain. We're not drawing it yet because we have right here in the building to help us analyze some of the mentioned issues here. We have Deborah Adeniro, Executive Chairman, CACOL. You're welcome once again, sir.
It's my pleasure.
All right. Out of all the papers, I would want to go to the Daily Sun again. Buhari restates should-have-sight order.
That's right.
Is that a wise decision to take?
Well, the decision cannot be wiser because if you don't meet violence with violence, violence will persist. And if the government cannot enjoy the monopoly of violence, it means that the government is failing. In order for government to fulfill its obligation, its purpose for being in place, you know, to ensure our security and welfare, then it has to have superior firepower. And wherever anybody that is not authorized to carry firearms is found with it, especially these days when security has been put in jeopardy, then it has no excuse to give. It has to be fired. Okay, because all of this, AK-47 is not a toy gun. It's not a Dane gun. And it is meant to fight wars. And when you find it with anyone, and the fellow is not a security agent, is not a soldier, it's not a policeman, it's not somebody that is authorized, then he has no reason to carry it down for criminality purposes. Then he has to be brought down first and foremost, because if you don't bring him down, he's likely to succeed in bringing you down because he's criminally minded, first and foremost. Right. So it is a wise decision. And when you look at the pervasive nature of insecurity in the country today, Buhari's name is what comes up every time anybody is talking about insecurity, thinking that he's not competent, thinking that he's not proving his own mettle as a retired general and all of that. So he needed to save his own name and had to make a different history for himself by ensuring that, okay, whatever it takes will be given to it. And that was what led to they are going to give them what they know how to do best. And that is violence for violence.
All right.
Thank you very much, sir.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you.
We're not leaving you yet.
Yes.
You're going to talk some more.
Absolutely.
All right. Okay, right away, we're delving straight into the topic. First of the 4 package we have for you today. No one can give you power. It is yours. So take it. From this day, show to the world that anyone who takes the people of Nigeria for fools is deceiving himself and will have the people to answer to. This is one of the sayings of Abiola. Now, the question is, what has our country learned since the death of Moshood Kashimao Olaiwola Abiola, popularly known as MKO? Stay with us and find out the rest of this discussion. Back to you, sir. It is really exciting to know that you were very much around during the time we're talking about, and you had something either directly or indirectly to do within that period. Now the question is, where were you precisely and what did you do?
Well, thank you very much. There was no special incident on June 12th itself.
Okay.
Okay. We went out to vote. I was very close to your studio, Aguda Ogba, around here. That's where I lived then. And that's where I voted and monitored the election, June 12, 1993. And of course, before then, we had campaigned that that election was going to be a first, that the military didn't show any sign that they want to relinquish power to the civilian authority. And we actually told people that they should not participate. But we didn't want to stop people all the same, so there was no incident on that day. So everything was peaceful, and of course, nothing unusual than, okay, we had, maybe for the first time, we had a peaceful election. We have an election that we can say is orderly. But it wasn't a fair election. That is where I disagree with everybody that is saying that it's freest and fair. No, it was free, it was orderly, it was peaceful, but it wasn't fair. It's had all the trappings of choreographed kind of electoral process. And of course, it's ended the way the producer of the choreography wanted to end. Unfortunately, he lost his confidence on the outcome of the election and messed it up completely by annulment later.
All right. I was going to move to the part of the election. According to history, the June 12, 1993 election was the freest and fairest. But you said it was free, but it wasn't fair.
Of course, everything but fair.
Everything but fair. And now I understand that the then National Electoral Commission, NEC, adopted a unique voting system called Option A4, that which made rigging and other electoral malpractices impossible. Now, looking at June, 28 years later, would you say our electoral system is supposed to be advancing? Is it really advancing? From the option A4, what happened to all of those practices then?
You see, when you talk about option A4, it is actually a violation of people's right to secrecy, to privacy, because you don't have to know who I voted for. So that is one of the reasons why it wasn't fair. There are so many things that preceded the election day that were unfair to the people. One, people made attempt to form their political parties. You didn't allow them to form political parties because you refused to register them. And you actually banned all the associations, about 27 or more of them, that were journeying towards transmitting to political party. You banned them. it is political parties that are supposed to create government. But it was government that created political parties for the people. It is the people that are supposed to develop their own ideology. It is government that develop ideology for them. So you have to, it's just like somebody says that whether you like it or not, you have to be a Christian or a Muslim. You don't have the option of being something different. You cannot worship your traditional way and all of that. So, but that is a violation of your right to choose what you want to do. The same thing happened before June 12th. And you know, there have been all of these change in transitional dates, which Babangida kept on adjusting. If Babangida said today that he was going to hand over the reign of power to the civilian, he will change that date and all that. It kept on changing. So people lost confidence in the ability of the military to deliver reign of government to the civilian authority. So basically that, all of those things didn't make June 12th election. Of course, I had told you, when you talk about option A4 was brought out of military mentality, command system. Okay? Line up, you line up. Look right, you look right. Look like do this. You can only vote either for a little to the right, which is us NRC, National Republican Convention, or a little to the left, Social Democratic Party. Now, all the program, the agenda, the manifestos were written for them. Party offices were built for them. So they were spoon-fed. And you know, whoever pays the piper will dictate the thing. Since you didn't have any commitment to what became your political party, you won't even mind whether it stands on a principle or it falls out of principle. You won't even mind whether it serves the purpose of the people or serves the purpose of the opposite. And that is why whatever came out of a wrong process can never be right. A wrong step in the right direction can never be right. Just like a right direction, a right step in the wrong direction cannot also be right. That was why June 12 was not meant to work. What happened? The option A4, open ballot system. You queue behind the poster and you get your ballot paper. Of course, everybody knows where you are going to vote. The ballot card is just to accentuate it that, okay, the number of people you counted on the line is the number of ballots you find in the box. Okay, which will be collated and make election to be declared. But then the thing is that that was a violation of your right to privacy. Okay, so that is one. So option A4 is not something we should say we want to build on. We should build on standard electoral practice and maybe applying technological inclusiveness. Okay, people now vote from their cell phones and other in advanced countries and other. Why don't we make Nigeria a little, higher than what we used to be? Why should we be thinking of an option A4, which was a violation of right to, of people, to what we actually ensure that you said that option A4 makes it impossible for people to manipulate. No, it was because people were apathetic to that election.
Okay.
You have only 14 million out of about 80 million people that were eligible to vote. Only 14 million voted in that election. Distribute 14 million all over Nigeria. It means that you are not likely to have up to 200 people in every polling, in each of the polling booths. Meaning that it was bound to be orderly because you don't have many people at the polling stations. Then you have, soldiers armed to the teeth looking at what you are doing. You are being coerced to do what you are doing. So a lot of things were wrong, were not democratic. So basically, that was why it was peaceful. That was why it was free. That was why it was orderly. Because when you are in the barrack, you have no choice but to file up if your commander says you should do it. And we were under that jackboot command system during that period. That was why you have all of those trappings. But then, if you are talking about standard democratic practice, that was not what was culminated in June 12th. And that was the reason why there was no incident until after June 27, when announcement was made that, oh, the election had been annulled. So we don't have to build on option A4 because we will be aggravating a bad system, you know, but we have to gravitate towards what is supposed to be standard practice, best practices that you can you can admire from other parts of the world.
It is very interesting to know that at least for the very first time, I'm hearing or getting an opinion that goes this way, that's against the opinion of majority of the people.
That's right.
Concerning June 12 elections of 1993.
That's right.
You said it was free, but nowhere fair.
It wasn't fair.
Quite interesting.
Yeah.
What lessons are there for us to learn today?
Well, the main lesson we are to learn is that we don't have to tolerate anything that subjugates our right to remain humans, right to humanity. We were treated as subhuman elements, you know, in 1993 by the military. We were under control, command system that we are not supposed to be under. We are, the military didn't have to subject civilians to that kind of command system. And that is what we know, that that is a lesson we should learn, that look, if the military says we don't pray for military government to come back, but if they come back, we should not allow them a day longer than necessary to stay. As a matter of fact, we should not allow them at all. That we allow them that length of time made it easy for them to turn us into robots that had to dance to their tunes. So we should learn that lesson, that the reason why we are still where we are today was because the election that could have ushered in the best president Nigeria would have had was messed up because we allowed military, we tolerated military so much that they are able to dictate the pace along the wrong direction that has led us to nowhere. Because what we have today is not the kind of democracy that we should have 60 years or 61 years after independence.
All right, still about lessons.
Yeah.
MKO's opponent, Alhaji Bashir Tofa,
Yeah.
Bashar Tofa rather,
Whatever.
was a northerner with a running mate from the southeast, and according to history,
Yeah.
I wasn't there, according to history, it had
No
no
problem.
effect on the 14 button. So it made me understand that tribal sentiment can actually be pushed aside. Do you have a contrary opinion to that, sir?
I've told you that it was a choreographed thing. You know, everything was tailored towards making Abiola win. You know, pitching Abiola, who was a popular philanthropist, global philanthropist actually, and was was popular across religious, tribal, and all other lines that you can think of. Was known everywhere. Don't forget, he was a pillar of sports in Africa. Don't forget that he was a champion of reparations. The fights against the oppressive regimes of the colonialists, that they should repatriate all of those things they have taken away from Africa. He was popular everywhere. He was the chairman of ITT. He was with the military. He was actually supplying military, hardwares and the rest of them. He was popular among the people. He was popular among the media. He was a media mogul. He was popular among the people. He was baking bread for us. He was a bookseller. He was everywhere, everything you want people to see. You now pitch him against an obscure Bashar Tova, who was hardly known by anybody before that election, and a gentleman from the eastern part of I can't even remember his name, unlike Abiola and Babangida Kingibe, all of these people were already known. So if you pitch known against the unknown, you know that the known will carry the day. So it wasn't because Nigeria didn't consider all of those things primordial considerations. It was because they were not allowed to vote their own mind. They were not allowed to set up their own political party along their own inbuilt ideological leaning. So if you gave a choice of what is known and what is not known, definitely you want to go for what is known. That was why Abiola won. Yes, Abiola was good. Abiola promised people hope, gave that glimpse of hope, and he was actually practicalizing it. And that was what overwhelmed the military authority, thinking that Abiola has endeared himself, warmed himself into the mind of the masses. That if he was allowed to become the president, then all of them who had staged a coup one time or the other may be in for it. And that they might not be given any opportunity to perpetuate themselves in power. Because Babangida didn't want to go.
Okay.
Abacha was, has his own agenda. All of them in the military, including Abdulsalami Abubakar, all of them had their own agenda. They thought that, they will only, because Abiola used to be their friend, they thought that they will be able to talk to him to relinquish power back to them. But when they saw the process, when they saw the massing of masses behind Abiola's Hope 93, they knew that Abiola was a kind of train that they should not allow to cross their path. Otherwise, it will demolish all of them if he was allowed to become the president. They also knew that even within the military, Abiola was very, very popular because of his. Of course, he sponsored several people to the military college. You know, he sponsored. He was an indiscriminate giver. So he was so popular that threatens their own agenda. That's why they didn't allow him. So it wasn't Abiola that was at fault. It was the process that led to June 12. And that is why some of us have year in, year out been suggesting that instead of calling June 12 Democracy Day, because June 12 is anything but democratic, it should be named Abiola Day. Okay? So you just say MKO Abiola Day. That would have paid a glowing tribute to the man who decided to commit class suicide when it matters most. When it mattered most, he actually joined the masses. He identified with the masses. He wanted to make life, more abundant for the masses of the people. That was the reason why we are saying, or that is still the reason why we are saying, instead of saying it's Democracy Day, June 12, it should be called Abiola Day. Even if you want to add democracy, call it MKO Abiola Democracy Day.
All right.
That would have been more opposite, rather than just misnaming a beautiful day like that.
Okay. So, very briefly now, the circumstances surrounding Abiola's death,
yes,
are still shrouded in secrecy.
Yeah.
Why is it up till today?
You see, I have told you it was a choreographed scene. It was
for him to be killed.
Yes, it's part of the game.
Wow.
If he wasn't, they want her to get even with the death of Abacha. That was the assumption.
Okay.
Because nobody can say for sure that this is why Abiola was killed, but everybody knew that Abiola doesn't have to be in detention for that length of time that he was in detention. He didn't commit any offense. When they talk about a Petedo declaration, of course he didn't set up a private army that he wanted to take over the reign of government by force of arms. you cannot use your word to injure another person in physical, in physical area. Let me just say that, yes, I was elected because Humphrey was only being clever by half.
Okay.
All the results of election have been gotten from the polling station. You know, it was open ballot system. So as soon as you count, you know the number of people who voted in a particular place. You can always collate by yourself. So the election results were with the people, even before the end of the election period. So if you didn't declare it, it's just because you don't want to formalize it. So Abiola knew that he has won. Tofa knew that he has lost. So why is it that you don't want Abiola to get there? I've analyzed that. So now that you have that on your hand, you knew that this man is popular. I've told you that it's a moving train. Abiola had become a moving train across Africa, not only in Nigeria. And the whole world were already agog with jubilation that a man, a philanthropist, has come to take the reign of government in a Nigeria upon which hope had almost lost earlier. Now, I told you the interest of the military. They wanted to perpetuate themselves. They wanted to transmute from military to civilian government, and they wanted a lot of things. That's why they started with diarchy, where you have legislature being civilian and military calling himself president. Okay? So all of these were orchestrated towards perpetuation of themselves in power. So that is the reason why, if, of course, they couldn't eliminate him easily, they had to quickly arrange, because of the uprising that follow up to follow the annulment. Okay. Right. They couldn't get away with it. They knew that they couldn't get away with it. Babangida had to step aside. Was forced to step aside because he could govern anymore. Quite interesting.
But
they set up a
time won't permit us to continue. Quite revealing there.
Yeah, a lot of things to be said. So thank you so much, Mr. Debo Adeniro.
Yeah.
I was speaking to Debo Adeniro, the executive chairman of CACO. We'll take a short break now. We have more interesting segment for you after the short break. So stay with us.
June 12 is a period in our collective history as a nation where Nigerians of all tribes and tongues came together, regardless of their differences, regardless of their ethnic background, religious background, and so forth, to elect their leader, whose mandate was unfortunately overturned by the then military head of state.
It was a terrible experience then. There was a crisis all over Nigeria, especially in Ibadan here, which I witnessed because I was I experienced it. Everything were upside down. There was no food, no water, no electricity, no transport. Everything was in standstill. And it was a terrible. As a man, we all voted for him. At the end of the day, they annulled the election, and there was crisis all over Nigeria. I was then a civil servant. You understand? And so we were on strike. We couldn't go to anywhere. So that was the experience. It was a terrible experience then.
1993 June 12 is an unforgettable role in Nigeria, because our candidate was not announced as he won the election, so which is very painful to us.
That June 12 is a short memory that I can never forget in my life. I left this way by 11 o'clock that I'm going to, I was there to prepare for the election.
That June 12, the experience was so terrible. I have to trek down from Ogbede just a year, so without getting any vehicle. So that experience was so terrible by then.
1993 June 12, That was aftermath of the election that was annulled by the military government. It was horrible. It's not what you can pray for again to happen, because then everybody was running from ups, down, left, right.
Well, interestingly, for some of us that were a little bit younger then, or relatively young then, we were not oblivious of the fact that something was really happening in the country, because the atmosphere was indeed very charged then, and at some point we had that consciousness that Nigeria was heading towards a disaster, sort of.
I know a lot of things about MKO Abiola. You see, let me just tell you, I'm a crazy supporter of MKO Abiola when he was alive. Do you know the reason why I was a great supporter? Because in MKO, I've never seen anybody like MKO in Nigeria. This man is well loved by many Nigerians, not because of his, let me say, character or what, but because of his kind gesture. I want to say something. If you look at Nigeria very well, I don't think there's anybody from any tribe that can pull the kind of crowd that MKO Abiola pulled during his time. What am I trying to say? Do you know the likes of, what's it called, this guy that owns TV station? They all served MKO Abiola. They all served him, but today they are in wealth. That's it. Dr. Muaz, is it Dr. C or Dr. I think Dr. C. All right. So they're in money. So what I'm trying to say, a lot of people serve this man, and some they don't even serve him, but they're in money today. Even the so-called Laba, the chiefs, and all of them, they made it through this man called MKO Abiola. And do you know one thing? Ever since the exit of MKO Abiola, Nigeria have never found a replacement. We are still looking for MKO Abiola because nobody can be like that man. This is a man who just willingly decides to do good to people. Do you know that during his time, a lot of people enjoyed? So, what I want to say is that MKO Abiola is nothing but the best man you can ever think of, and nobody can be like him.
Yeah, MKO Abiola was a philanthropist, a businessman, a politician, and he was known all through the whole of Africa and the world. So we can say that MKO Abiola was the pillar of the modern democracy, and which has helped the country to enjoy the current democratic dispensation we are enjoying now. So invariably, it was more or less the pillar of the modern democracy. So that was what MKO did for Nigeria as a whole and Africa.
MKO Abiola means, that name itself means a lot to Nigerians. June 12th is the most important day in Nigeria's history. The only thing I can just say, let me debate a little bit, that what he has done is to recognize June 12th as Nigeria's Democracy Day. Abiola was widely accepted by both Christians, Muslims, Igbos, Yorubas, Fulani, Hausas. He was a philanthropist. He had money. He was not going there to steal. Instead, he's going there to create an impact. But then, he had not the election. Let me start. June 12th is the best ever election held in the history of Nigeria. According to international media, that is a fact. Everybody voted. No tribalism, no on religion. He defeated his candidate in his town, in his village, in the state. His opponent from Kano. MKO Abiola is dead, but that legacy he left will never die. Free, fair, a good man, a philanthropist, and what can I say?
Talking about MKO Abiola was a business mogul, a businessman of international repute, somebody who was a philanthropist, somebody who won an election in Nigeria that is adjudged to the most free and fair election ever conducted in Nigeria. But unfortunately, he was not allowed to enjoy that mandate. He was arrested and put into jail in an attempt trying to claim his mandate. But unfortunately, he could not live to enjoy that mandate as he died in the process of trying to get that mandate. And Nigeria have not yet recovered from that injustice being done to such a generous man.
We know MK Abiola as a great man who wanted to fight for his people. But God is owner of everyone. He may decide to call anybody at any time, no matter where you are, whom you are, and the position you acquire. We know that MK Abiola wanted to do something good for Yorubas. I don't know if for Igbo, because he said, according to, I quote, he said he can rule without Igbos, that Igbos are minority. I was not there, but it's what I hear. So with that young man ambition then, I believe if the privilege was given to him, it would have been something good for Nigeria. And I want to give this advice to his people, family and friends, because I believe he's not there, but his people speak for him, even in this our generation. June 12th, people remembered him. I know that June 12th is all about MK Abiola. So people that follow him and people that talk about him and the people who still remember him, I say thank you very much for them, because what person have is what he will use to boast. They cannot boast on what you don't have. I believe MK Abiola is a hero in Yoruba land.
MK Abiola had so many impact on general society because, like I said earlier on, as a philanthropist, he touched many lives in terms of reaching back to the society through his numerous giving back to the society as part of his corporate social responsibility. And this in itself will keep his name indelible, as an indelible mark in the mind of Nigerians.
Okay, in terms of the effect or how he has affected the society, MKO Abiola in person, there was a consciousness of the political configuration of Nigeria, because people came out in mass, and that was why that election was probably called the freest election in Nigeria's political history. So in terms of his philanthropy, from sports to healthcare to women to children, virtually in all spheres, MKO did a lot. So educationally invested in.
Many thanks for staying with us. This is still iBrand Daybreak, and still on the June 12th special edition of the Breakfast Show. MKO Abiola is the focus, and this is what is said about business. We are seeking to see people who have shown little or no personal achievement, either in building up private businesses or making success of any tangible thing, being placed in charge of the management of our nation's economy by rulers who are not accountable to anyone. Now we want to discuss the life, family and businesses of the late MKO Abiola. And with us in the studio, we have a film and documentary maker and the person of Mr. Niyi Babade. Welcome, Mr. Niyi, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much.
All right, Mr. Niyi, how do you do?
I'm all right.
All right, then.
We are alive.
Okay.
Because, you know, the whole world went through so many problems. But we are still alive.
Yeah, I know, reading through your profile, you went through a lot too. So during the time of all of this, where were you and what were you doing at that point?
Well, as a journalist who works for a foreign medium, it wasn't even CNN then, it was Reuters, you know. And Reuters was the news agency. I was the pioneer television staff of Reuters.
Wow.
Therefore, you know, it was not funny. There was nothing like, you know, CBN and the rest, or every other major broadcaster
broadcasting stations across the globe. They had agency that they subscribe to that supplies them with news. So Reuters, AP, AFP, Associated Press, and the rest. So I work with Reuters because Reuters was just coming. It was just having television for the first time, right? And I was the pioneer staff here. So it was really, really a tasking period, a time to test my ability as a reporter or as a photojournalist, as everything. So June 12 was a very lovely experience. And that was why I was able to do that award-winning documentary, because most of what you see in the documentary were things that I witnessed, and they were all shot by myself, you know. So I was with Abiola, I was with people, I was, you know, so that was what led to that. So I was always on ground, I was on the field.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, even though he grew up to become nationally famous, stupendously rich, Abiola he didn't come from a wealthy background. Can you tell us more? What more can you tell us about this?
Well, during my research, because you don't do documentary without doing research. During my research into the family background, when I went to the family house and all that stuff, I went to his house in Abeokuta. I saw where he grew up. I heard his uncle told me a lot of stories about how his father sold his school. No, he sold his school uniform to eat, so he could eat. I heard the story of how the first time he ever tasted egg was in was in Zimbi at Abiola's house, you know, and all that stuff. And you see, it just comes to show, except that the whole world is changing. Nigeria is changing. I don't know why. Only God knows why. And the rulers, because we've never had leaders, you know, the rulers are the one who is changing the narrative in the Nigerian society. Before, you can say, okay, I am poor today, but with determination, perseverance, and hard work, I know I will make it. But in Nigeria, I doubt it. The narrative has changed. That's why I don't belong to this school of thought that say, oh, tomorrow will be better. You know, I don't know, because I've not seen the tomorrow being better in the Nigerian society. This was somebody who was wretched, who was poor, who came from a poor background, but was very brilliant, and what have you, and was determined to succeed, and later succeeded, right? So that is how God has placed life to be. You remember the case of Awolowo. Awolowo was poor as well, wrote letter to Odutola for loan so he could further his education. The man refused him because he thought this guy can never pay back. But see what Awolowo later became in life. That's the thing. That's how God set life. And that is what is happening everywhere across the globe. Only in Nigeria that there are some people who, instead of allowing you to grow, to get to where you're going, they look for a way to stop it by cornering, by doing their maneuvering and what have you. So, and that is why the Nigerian society is where it is today. So I always advise people at any forum where I have opportunity to talk to them, that hoping against hope or hope out of despair is no longer the thing in Nigeria anymore. You know, Nigeria has its way of, you know, there's a way Nigerians are wired, which is quite different. I've been to virtually every part of the world where I've seen a lot of people, I work with people, I've spoken with people, right? But I see that the Nigerian system is just what you cannot describe. You can work for 100 years of your life and you may not afford, at the end of the day, you may not be able to afford daily bread. Yeah, because that's Nigeria. But everywhere in the world, the moment you, and elsewhere in the world, the moment you are not lazy, the moment you work, you give all your best, something will surely come. So I was not surprised that Abiola made it. But if it were this period, I doubt if he would have made it.
But then isn't it supposed to be a progressive thing? Because I remember those times when we hear from older ones, parents, grandparents, that with 15 naira there, you could do a lot of things. But now, compared then and now, people who were hardworking there, it was easy for them to make it based on what you said. But what happened to the Nigerian? Are we really learning from this past events?
Well, the biblical injunction that says to your tent, O Israel, is what is playing out here. Nigerians have discovered that, look, there's no room for progression. There's no room for progression. We must stop deceiving ourselves. That's why we don't have youths. You don't have followers, because we've always been having rulers, right? And when you have rulers, you don't have leaders. If you have leaders, you will have followers. We've always been having rulers, and that is what has subjected Nigeria to now be having what you call you don't have followers, but subjects. And the young boys of the younger ones of now, they, instead of becoming subjects, they too want to take arms, and that's why you see bad thing, kidnapping, yahoo, armed robbery, banditry taking effect. Nobody wants to be anybody's subject anymore. But if you had ruler, if Nigeria had been lucky to have leaders who could lead them, and they say they have followers. I remember in our own period, when I hear that, oh, somebody made 10 A's in school, our own period was looking forward. I will be reading our book because we want to make that 10 A's too. When it comes to attack, we have people that we were looking up to. Nobody looks up to anybody now. Boys of 15, 18, 19 years old who just acquire, who did this the rigmaroling thing of Yahoo and what have you, who bought a house, and you are still there waiting for your 30,000 naira salary before you can even afford a meal for your family. You know, how do you expect such to look at you? The Nigerian society has made everybody to be stupid, to look silly, to look lazy. All right? You don't need to be told that an average Nigerian now is a lazy man because he cannot afford to drive a 500 million naira car on the street.
Is it really wise to generalize this?
It is better to generalize, and that's why that's my gross again with some of the preachers in Nigeria. Instead of allowing people to take their destiny in history, Napoleon Bonaparte, they were going to crown him, right? And he looked at the people, they were still doing some ceremony, and he collected the crown from them and quickly wear it on his head. And that is the way it should be. All this your rigmarole storytelling, no, nobody wants that anymore. Let the people tell the people. My grandfather was there saying, oh, Nigeria might be better one day. My father died thinking Nigeria will be better one day, and I've been thinking that Nigeria will be better one day. How is it going to be better? And we're there deceiving people, telling people the moment you are able to I have friends in government who, since they came to power, having the opportunity to be in power, they don't even remember me anymore. I remember one who sleeps on the couch in my house and will say, do you know I've been in your house for the past 3 days and I need a change of clothes to go out. I won't be. Today, he's in high place in Abuja, right? An assistant to a minister. He has never picked my call since. That's the Nigerian society. You know, they don't look back. They don't, because the thing is sitting deep into their system. So we will be doing injustice to humanity if I join you to say, oh, there is hope. There is no hope.
But Babade, hold on for a moment. Being one of those persons that was there, we witnessed a lot of things that happened during the MKO Abiola time. One of the things MKO Abiola preached about, what he had so much, he kept him going, was hope. So would you say all of those things is now going down the drain? Because you're saying Nigeria, no, but he believed that you were one of those who were part of all of this, his belief too. So why you saying Nigeria there's no hope anymore?
We wanted to actualize June 12th. We fought the military. I was sent to prison in Port Harcourt. Dauda Komo, I don't want to mention this. The press secretary has become my friend now, so I don't like mentioning his name anymore. But he was the one who handed me over that I should be taken to prison, and I was in prison just for this same June 12th. Gadiwa and me said, "Oh my boy, nobody will take you away." It was overpowered, and I was taken away. All right, because we believed there was hope. All our colleagues, I was a journalist. I am a journalist doing his thing. But I was doing my job on being on the side of the people because I saw the hope. I believed there was hope. Not now that Nigeria, Nigeria narrative has changed. There's no hope. So if Abiola believed, if he had attained that power, then he would have cushioned some of the effect of poverty on people. That's why hope that said they will say bye-bye to poverty, bye-bye to this and all that stuff. Because he believed we will use his personal wealth, personal influence on some of these things. But it was not allowed. Although those people never saw it this way. They just didn't want, because, power is sweet. They just thought, oh, if he gets there, he might not allow us to do something. Just like what is going on now. You don't know what is going on next. Okay, and how do you give hope to people that you are not responsible to? Imagine, some people were kidnapped the other day, a few days ago, and what I was reading in the front page of newspaper was the president sending what do you call it, condolence message to his friend who lost his mother-in-law. I was pained to the marrow. Buhari did send condolence to somebody who lost his mother-in-law, and some students were just kidnapped 20. Is that what we should be thinking about? Is that what we should be saying? All these things, when you look at all these things, we know that we're in trouble. So, and I keep saying, I will not join force to tell people and deceive them because of my background. All right? Some years back, I was at home in Europe, and somebody knocked at my door on Saturday morning and said he is the mayor, or he was the councillor of that region, that he gave us, that during his campaign, he gave us some, itemized thing that he wants to do for that area. That please, if there's anyone that we think he has not
manifested,
he gave us in his manifesto. He said, during my campaign, I said I was going to do this, Please, sir, if you think there's anyone that I've not done, can you please tell me so I can quickly? Do you know, I was shocked to the marrow. My mind just went straight to Nigeria. That if he was in Nigeria, the moment you vote him, the goat, into power, you don't see him again. He buys himself a bulletproof car, tinted glass, and you don't see him. He doesn't come around again. This is accountability, transparency working. All right? So if I will, like I keep saying, I will not join force with anybody to say, oh, there is hope. Where is the hope, please? Maybe I was not catching.
Are you one of those who believe that there is a lot in a name, that's a name of an individual is so powerful as to influence the person's future or performance in life? Kashimao, that's a name given to late Abiola by the parents. Translated means let's wait and see.
You see, in my documentary, you will hear that. Okay. Because his parents, according to his parents, they were having successive, what do you call it, what you call Abiku Yoruba. All his brothers and sisters that were born before him were dying. So they didn't believe in him too. They said, okay, they named him Kashima. Well, let's see if he too will survive or died or passed on at the early stage. That was what the meaning of his Kashima, right? But it was when socialism came that, the socialite turned into Kashima and all that stuff. What that name really implies, according to my research and which was mentioned in my documentary, was his parents were thinking that, oh, let's see if he too will survive, just like his brothers and sisters that have come before him, but they died at the early stage. That was the name Kashimawo. Okay. All right, but thank God he survived and he was able to get to where he never expected he was going to get to. So, well, if you say that, well, I believe even though I pretend to be an Oyibo boy because living in England, schooling in England and all that stuff. Wow. But I'm still a traditionalist. I am a prince from Ekiti State, and I was still given chieftaincy title, Otumba, again, to tell you that I'm a traditionalist. Names really, really matters a lot.
Wow.
Name really matters a lot, right? And that is why you cannot hear people name their children after Judas Iscariot and what have you.
The devil.
Imagine when Jonathan was in power, Good Luck Jonathan.
Yes.
There are a lot of people who that were named after Good Luck Jonathan. His name is Good Luck because they saw how Good Luck Jonathan ascended from nowhere to where he got to, right? So it shows that names really matters.
Okay. All right, now I want to read from the commentary I earlier read. It says, it's one of the quotes from Abiola on business. It said, we are seeking to see people who have shown little or no personal achievement, either in building up private businesses or making success in any tangible thing, being placed in charge of the management of our nation's economy by rulers who are not accountable to anyone. It brings us back to what you said about when your house in England and someone knocked and asked you to. So, accountability in our nation these days, we have people who are not even, like he said, they've not attained success in the personal things, and they are managing. You see leaders today who believe they are accountable to no one, they're not even transparent, money is missing, disappearing. So how do you think all of these things can be curtailed?
Well,
judging from Abiola's lifestyle as a businessman and a family man.
Well, I remember in those days, we used to follow, the Yoruba, the Southwest used to do things according to the way the likes of Awolowo will do it. You know, the likes of Awolowo will not do this, the likes of Awolowo will not do that. Even, you know, they wear Awolowo's cap and what have you. But now, all that, like I said, the narrative has changed. We don't see leadership in our forefather anymore. If we are seeing leadership, we will still wait. The last time that leadership left and fled the Southwest, or taking how do I say it now, taking cue from our leaders, was during Bola Tinubu and Obasanjo's regime.
Okay.
When they said, oh, Obasanjo was able to coin the people and say, vote for me, I will let you have your governors in that. It was only Bola Tinubu who did the Lagos boy, who never listened to Mr. Obasanjo. The rest listened to Obasanjo and they failed, and none of them became governor. Right? They supported Obasanjo. But Bola Tinubu was a Lagos boy. You know Lagos for what they are. He said, no way. But today, he was the only governor left because he took his destiny by his own hand. So, since that time, things has changed. But because we don't have the preachers, who are the preachers? The people who tell the truth are the preachers. I refer to them as the preacher, as a poet. You know, those who tell the truth. Today, when I see you, oh, you are wearing a lovely tie, I'll say, oh wow, you should be one of the richest man in Nigeria. You'll be happy. I'll be greasing your ego when I know that you don't even have a dime in your pocket. That's wickedness. That's injustice to humanity. All right?
Okay.
Recently, I wanted something from Lagos, and they say, oh, they are trying to tell you that you must be a Lagosian before you can get anything done. They say, oh, you have to go through appropriate, they call it, you have to register with, what do they call it? Whatever, something. And I said, they're telling you that, look, boy, you are not a Lagosian.
Okay, now, sir, let's talk about Abiola's business and the kind of wealth he amassed while he was alive. His business empire, vast business empire, spanned through different spheres of life. When you come to the aviation, you have the Concorde airline. Come to the print, that's the media, you have Concord newspaper. You have spread all over the place, very, very famous indeed. One wonders, you know, what must have become of all these things as we speak today?
Well, even though that is his personal life, like I said, I don't join force with people who call themselves talkers or speakers. That's his personal life, that's within him and his family members who were supposed to have managed the business. But in Nigeria of today, I bought Gary 2 weeks ago on my way to Ibadan for 1,500 naira. I passed through that place yesterday. I wanted to buy that same amount of Gary. They say it's now 4,500 within 2 weeks. So if Abiola had been alive at this period, where things are going the way it is, you know what would have happened to the business, right? So the business, it would have been able to, if he was able, if, you know, they say who pays the piper dictates the tune.
Yeah.
The West, they tell you, devalue your currency, bring down the prices of this, of your goods that is coming for our industries, and we keep following them, pretending. But the only pain that I have is Nigerian authority not having a rapport with citizenry to say, oh, see, we've been asked to devalue our currency by these people. Ladies and gentlemen, should we go ahead? You just hear one policy tomorrow. They say, oh, yesterday I wanted to change dollar from, they say it's 100 naira. By tomorrow it has become 200 naira, without anybody telling you why, or why did they arrive at that. You get? You see, we are Nigerians authority, Nigerian rulers, Nigerian authority, the people who are, I came up with one idea. I said, the drivers of the Molue called Nigeria, because it's Molue. Because it's inside Molue that you don't have responsibilities, you don't have, you know. Consider that one day, a day will come where you will all become history. Drive us gently. Remember that you will become mystery one day, no matter who you are, whatever you think you are. All right? You know, in the West or in the senior society, you will tell them, the pilot of this plane, please land us safely. We are in a ramshackle, rickety, Molue bus in Nigeria. And that is why it's bumpy ride at all times. Please, those of you who are controlling the affairs, who are ruling, do something. Remember that you will become mystery. You will one day become mystery, no matter how wealthy, how strong, how powerful you all are. History will pronounce anathema on your name.
Okay.
All right, briefly, as we wrap up, what are the lessons young ones should learn from what has happened, so that's just to avoid repetition of past events?
Well, we don't have young ones anymore. I'm sorry to say.
Okay, I'm younger.
Well, you might be deceiving yourself by saying you are young. Yes. I will tell you why I say we don't have young ones. Young ones are tired of our failures. So they are now taking their destiny into their hand. That's why you now see them. Everybody is now channeling their own way of life. Yahoo, cyber, internet, whatever you call it, right? Nobody wants to wait for anybody anymore, right? So young ones don't take cue from us in Nigeria alone. They still take cue from every other part of the world. So if you say you're younger ones, you are just, and when you see, if you talk from morning till night and you ask people to listen to you, if they like you, they will hear you. They only hear you. Nobody listen to you anymore. Nobody, you can find out. When a governor is talking and somebody will just say, Fame, can you do that to a school teacher ordinarily in those days, in our own day? Then there's no younger ones anymore because we have failed them. We failed them. So now they've now taken their destiny to their hands. So that's the thing. So I don't have any advice for younger ones that they should just be cautious of what they're doing.
Oh, thank you so very much.
Thank you so much, Ni Babade.
Yes, sure. That's been Ni Babade, a film and documentary maker, a former CNN correspondent West Africa. And you did so very well there.
Amazing. Amazing.
Thank you very much for being on the show.
Thank you.
We're going to take a break now. When we come back, remember, we told you it's going to be a very special day. And this we are going to prove to you. And you're going to have it all coming your way, just the way we promised you, only if you remain with us. So stay with us. We're coming back with more shortly.
At your house, are you being arrested? I'm being arrested. I'm just going out now with the police.
Hello.
You see, there's a large crowd here, and I was being escorted out to detention by singing the national anthem.
Why are they arresting you?
They are arresting me on an allegation of felony, nameless treason or something like that. They're not doing anything, they're just taking me away. Please let me go. You know, I'm delaying them.
And so where are you now? Are you in your car?
I'm in my car now.
Is it police who are with you in your car, or are they escorted? Are they
Yes, the commissioner of police is in the car with me, and my senior wife is in the car with me.
Why are they letting you talk on the phone to the BBC while they're in the middle of arresting you?
They have come to arrest me, not to arrest my mouth.
You sound very cheerful about it, Chief Abiola.
Of course. You know, it is all part of democracy here.
And you're happy to go to the police and await whatever charges they're going to file against you?
I'm not in any way disturbed by it. Any sacrifice is in order. If it will bring democracy, peace and prosperity to Nigeria.
Is it possible to talk to the Commissioner of Police who's with you in the car?
I don't know if the Commissioner of Police is authorized to talk. He cannot talk to the press.
What is your advice now to your supporters, many of whom we heard a moment ago?
Well, I told them before I left home to just stay calm. It is very, very important that they stay calm.
So you're appealing for calm. You don't want them to take any direct action in your support?
No.
Widely acclaimed to be the fairest election so far in the history of our country. And suddenly somebody, because you have the power, you're in power, you believe you can cancel it. So, and that was because they refused to accept that. That was the major reason the presidency was zoned to the southwest, which Obasanjo now became the beneficiary of. So, in spite of not declaring that the center as a public holiday, the South never relents. They continue to celebrate June 12 as their Democracy Day. All the 6 western states, as we have the Lagos, Oyo, Ogun, Ondo, you know, they continue to celebrate it as their own Democracy Day until we now have this present administration. God bless Buhari, who believe that no, he agree with us that the Democracy Day should have been June 12. And thankfully, he changed it to June 12. You know, Democracy Day, remove it from May 29 to June 12 of every year. So we celebrated it last year, and this is the second time we are celebrating June 12. It's a reminder. I think it should be a reminder. And it's everybody must remember that day. It should be a kind of motivation for us never to give up in any struggle we are facing. Even with what is happening in this country, we must always do the right thing. We don't give up in our aspiration or agitation or what we feel is the right. We must press forward. That is how all the developed countries all over the world achieve what they achieve today. The struggle of the Black Lives Matter still goes on in America. It started from the time immemorial, even up to the time Martin Luther King was murdered. They still didn't give up the struggle, and they are still on the struggle. So once you believe you are firmly on the right path, I believe that is what June 12 is all about. You continue to press forward until you achieve your aim. So I believe that the Southwestern actually did achieve their aim, and we can never forget June 12 and what happened in this country. Many lives were lost, many people sacrificed for it, innocent life on the streets during the struggles. That is what June 12 signifies. and we shouldn't forget it. So it is actually the real democracy date. Then I just finished my WAEC. So, you know, WAEC usually takes place May, June. So we were just rounding up when the whole thing started, and I was in Ibadan then. So we were part of, as small as we were then, we understood what was happening. And we too, we would say, no, we cannot agree. So I was part of the struggle in my own little corner.
You're still watching Daybreak special edition for the Democracy Day here on iBrandTV. Now, the late MKO Abiola once said that only real democracy can move our nation forward towards progress and earn her the respect she deserves from the international community. Now, for our next discussion, talking about democracy, rule of law, and call for constitutional review, we have right here in the studio, Jide Ologun, our legal practitioner. You're welcome to the show, sir.
You're welcome to the show.
I'm happy democracy.
Yeah, same to you.
We wish you the same. We wish you the same.
Thank you.
Now, from a legal point of view, what is democracy?
Democracy is the government of the people, by the people, and for the people. And it's targeted at enhancing the fortunes of the people and taking care of the interest of the majority. And it started all the way in Athens in Greece. And you have a combination of two Greek words there, talking about the demo, which is the people, then kratos, which talks about rule. So the rule of the people. That means people should come together to decide how their affairs will be managed. And when it started in Athens, it could be full democracy then. Everyone could come together to take decisions. But as other societies began to embrace democracy and the population is increasing, we found different models of democracy. And the one we have adopted in Nigeria, it's the elective democracy, in the sense of the fact that you can imagine over 200 million people coming together to take decisions on the affairs of the nation. How do we manage that? So we now have those we elect as president, governors, House of Reps member, House of Assembly at the state level, local government level, to run the affairs of the nation. But by and large, it's been narrowed down in the Constitution of Nigeria. If you look at Section 14, subsection 2 of the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended, it says that the security and the welfare of the people shall be the primary purpose of government. And regardless of the style of government you have adopted, we have adopted democracy, but that hasn't changed the primary purpose of government, which is the security and the welfare of the people. And the two are symbiotically related. Without security, the welfare is threatened, and where there is security, you can have an enhanced welfare. And here we are today.
All right. Now, a democratic society is not only measured by the ability to conduct regular elections, its citizens must also exercise the ability to elect representatives from among themselves to form a government. And now, beyond that, there must be diversity in thought, human rights, and freedom of speech must be protected. Now, in the present day Nigeria, would you say the above mentioned is really playing out? So is it really a democratic system of government?
We have not changed the nomenclature of the system of government we have adopted. We've called it democratic government, but for some of us, I think I started talking about militarized democracy some years ago. If you notice right now, even the police that has the primary responsibility under the Constitution to maintain internal security appears to have been overwhelmed, and the soldiers, the military, that should be concerned about protecting the sovereignty, integrity of the nation against external aggression, are gradually taking over the internal security structure. So, and if you want to measure the freedom of fundamental human rights, obviously, we've had series of encroachments on that, to the point that even your freedom to express yourself, that we call emotional ventilation in HR, has to be subject to some times, and the government appears to always be prepared to slap the people in court and say, don't cry, like some parents do. You are beating a child, you're asking the child not to cry. What do you want the child to do? And that is a dangerous trend. You must allow people to participate. When you talk about functional democracy, it is participatory. The fact that we have elected 109 senators to go to the National Assembly, 360 House of Reps members, should not foreclose our getting involved in the governance system, particularly when the expectations are not met. Because when you begin to talk about returns on investment, you evaluate the input with the output. So what we are getting, is it what we deserve or what we have been promised? If the answer is yes, then we won't have all these agitations and things like that. Politicians made promises, and then I think in the course of this dialogue, we may have the opportunity of trying to screen the most recent promises, the 3 promises of securing the nation, fighting corruption, and reviving the economy.
All right.
Some years down the line, can we look at the symptoms in the society and conclude or agree that there has been performance in respect of this?
All right. Now talking about the rule of law, what is the rule of law in a democratic setting?
The rule of law says everyone is subject to the law and no one is above the law, and that things will be done in line with the laws of the land. And if you look at the ground norm of the nation, which is the Constitution, you check the preamble. The preamble says, we, the people of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, have decided, resolved to live together as an indissoluble body and to be committed to peace in the African region, intercontinental level, and that the Constitution should represent and protect the interests of everyone. Or can we claim that is what we have today? Do you also know that in section 15 subsection 5 of the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended, it says that the state shall abolish corruption and abuse of office? Can we claim that we have done that? Do you know that section 16 of the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended stipulates that the government should provide reasonable living minimum wage, care for the old, care for the disabled? Do you know that if you start reading from section 15 downwards, it says the economy should be managed in a way that we have a sustainable, self-reliant economy, sustainable development, and that wealth should not be concentrated in the hands of a few. Do you know also that in section 17, it says that the social platform on which the nation will operate will be the platform of justice, equity, and freedom? Can we claim to have that in the society now? So when you talk about the rule of law, it means we should be subject to the rule of law. And that is saying nobody is above the law. What can we say today? And we have various parameters that some people are not above the law. Who are the bandits that we can hardly arrest? Some will even come up with arguments that no, they are into crime because they have been marginalized. You see, so are we really allowing the law to have its way? And that is why it may not be far from the truth that we appear to be operating in a lawless society, because when you look at the dictionary definition of bandit, the bandit means a group of suspected criminals that are operating in a lawless society, and with the freedom of operation that these guys appear to have in our nation, we must ask the question, are we now lawless?
All right. Judging from the recent developments in Nigeria, Nigerians and even foreigners are beginning to question the rule of law and democracy in this country. So these challenges, do you think we are handling it well, or we are just letting it lay low as usual?
If we are handling it well, we will not be where we are. Even the senators cannot travel freely, so there are consequences. Kings are screaming for security. Preachers, all the sectors of the society. I mean, how can you explain the fact that in Kaduna State, one of the 36 states of the Federation, in 3 months, 323 human beings were killed, reportedly, 949 kidnapped? How can you explain that in the National Assembly there is a bill being discussed that families of kidnapped victims that pay ransom to the kidnappers may be committing crime? In a situation where the government has expressed difficulty in rescuing the kidnapped. So we have a myriad of issues that are questioning us, that are we really focusing on practicing true democracy? But then, is it the same in other countries that practice democracy? The answer is no. So that is where we have found ourselves, and that is why some of us are tempted to say once in a while that maybe by choice, and it boils down to leadership. I know, for instance, that even outside the shores of the United States of America, a citizen was kidnapped in a foreign country, brought into Nigeria, and the United States of America breached all the international diplomacy protocol to rescue their citizen, and they neutralized some of the kidnappers. That is democracy. That is patriotism. That citizen will rise up any day and say, I am an American. And will be thinking of what can I do for my nation, because my nation defends me. And that is what we are talking about. So democracy is the effective representation of the interest of the people by those who are given the privilege of managing the affairs of the people. And they are usually in the minority. But what do we have in our society? We have a situation where the minority appear to be benefiting, and there is a wide gap between the poverty range and the prosperity range. And that is why some of us are happy that democracy is being tested through the judiciary. Recently, Barrister Monday Ubani, whom we respect so much, and his colleague Nwokwoso went to court to challenge the bogus salaries and allowances that National Assembly members earn. And he won the case in the Federal High Court because the National Assembly could not really still disclose how much they earn. Senator Shehu Sani mentioned in 2018 or thereabout that they earn about 13.5 million naira as running cost on a monthly basis.
Wow.
About 750,000 naira as consolidated salary and allowance on a monthly basis, and about 200 million naira per annum for constituency projects. And we have 109 senators. You see, so. And the court has ruled that since they could not also tell the court how much they earn, then the EFCC may have to go in to investigate, because we have what we call the Revenue Mobilization and Fiscal Allocation Committee that is supposed to fix these emoluments, and they are saying they are not the ones paying all those bookers salary. We have the National Assembly Service Commission. So who exactly is fixing it in a country that is the capital of poverty, where admittedly about 100 million people are within the poverty bracket, and the government has promised to move them out of the poverty bracket? So when you benchmark all this, you must ask yourself, is it the same story in Switzerland? The answer is no. Is it the same story in Sweden? The answer is no. So government is a structure to deliver on good governance. And the United Nations has simplified it with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Zero tolerance for poverty, zero tolerance for hunger, partnership to enhance the fortunes of the people so that you catch up with the developed countries of the world. And where are these major areas of need? You talk about education, you talk about health facilities, you talk about an enabling environment that will attract foreign direct investment, you talk about prosperity for the people, you talk about creating employment opportunities, you talk about providing electricity, for instance, which is a conveyor belt of industrialization. Even at the agrarian level that we are now, the primary level of our economy, we have appeared not to have done so much. I mean, let me ask you a simple question. Did you read, did you hear that the NNPC has warned us that that organization is drifting towards zero remittance to the Federation account? You know, and what is that telling us? Have you read that we may be deploying, and I think it's been approved, about $1.5 billion to maintain refineries that are moribund? So there are a lot of questions to ask. And basically, this oil and gas sector represents the earner of about 80% of our revenue. So there are several issues touching on the perceived mismanagement of our economy. If you Google Nigeria, it will tell you that Nigeria is located at this particular Gulf region, full of mineral resources, different kinds of potentials, fantastic and rare weather. You know, but then, where are we?
Okay, now, bad governance in Nigeria has largely been blamed on the 1999 Constitution. And there's been this call for a constitutional review. Let's assume this call is granted, that the Constitution is reviewed. Do you believe the situation of things in Nigeria will get better?
Firstly, no nation has a perfect constitution. Some countries don't even have written constitution. I think our problem is more about implementing the spirit of the constitution. I'm tasking our great audience, please spare about 10 minutes for information purpose and study. No, don't study. Just browse through from section 14 to section 17 of the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended. It will amaze you that if the provisions within this chapter 2 of the Constitution has been implemented up to 60%, Nigeria will be the third richest country in the world. So it's not about the document you have.
Can we take that again?
Go read through section 14 to section 17 of the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended. It talks about the unity, the directive on policy on economy, and you know, if it has been implemented 60%, I mean, I own this. I mean, if you read through and you are not satisfied that that alone can fix Nigeria if implemented, then you can come and take me to court. Is that beautiful provisions? But then those who structured that constitution, they have done it in a way that you cannot sue the government on breaching the provisions. That's what we call the ouster clause. And that brings us to the drivers of the system. I mean, we went to the university to study law, went to the law school. I mean, to handle a case now, I don't go to bring out my notebook in University of Benin. No, they are somewhere. You go into experience. I mean, we can, even on Google, without the constitution, you can learn how to develop a country. In 1965, Singapore left Malaysia as a frustrated and poor nation, a little coastal region. Lee Kuan Yew fortunately became the leader of that region. He even came to Nigeria, he came to Africa to seek for support, to move from poverty to prosperity. But when he saw the attitude of some African countries, the man went back to start developing his country. Today, Singapore is one of the best places to live and to work in the whole world. Are they discussing constitution there? We are talking about constitution. Now, the Judiciary Staff Union are on strike. Why? Because of the abuse of rule of law. The Constitution has mandated financial autonomy for the state judiciaries and local government. The governors have refused to implement it. The courts have been shut for months now. Are they bothered? Let me reveal to us. There are 50 states in the United States of America, or thereabout.
52.
And they have 24/7 electricity. Do you know why? Because the governance and the democratic mindset in the USA is that electricity is a fundamental human right. So you cannot imagine that human beings live in communities without electricity. That's the difference. So you want to be amazed that Twitter that we are banning is domiciled in California, bringing humongous wealth to that region. I think the economy of California, one of the states in America, is like the 6th largest economy in the world. What are we talking about? A state. What are we talking about?
All right.
So and I think the major challenge we have, and that is manifesting itself now, is that we are yet to unite as a people, and that is creating a lot of crisis for us. And the motto of Nigeria, which should be a guiding walking stick, says unity and faith. So without unity, there cannot be faith in Project Nigeria, peace and progress. And without the faith in that project, there may not be peace. And without the peace, there may not be progress. So if our leaders can just come together to sit down to discuss this issue, and we have discussed this severally, we have blamed it on the 1914 amalgamation of the Northern and Southern protectorates. Now, when you bought your phone, it's likely to have been configured with French or Germany, but you restructure it. There are two ways to live. You live by default, or you live by strategy. When a child is born, by default, that child is ignorant, and you may continue in that ignorance. And that is why I'm angry with those who are fighting education. By strategy, you start training that child to add value. So if we were wrongfully given a direction in 1914, are we to remain in that template? Some will even blame the colonial masters. Is it their problem? They built, Shell BP of the UK built our first refinery between 1963 and 1965 or thereabout. We have 4 refineries. Are they the ones to come and manage it for us? Are we wise to transport our crude oil to a foreign country where refineries are functioning, bring it back at a premium, lose some of the products to those countries, help them with creating employment in their region, have teeming unemployed youth in our country, bring back to sell at premium, and be shouting about subsidy? Does it make sense? It does not make governance sense. So, but then you find instances of unhealthy rivalry between regions. And I think that is where the debate on the amendment of Constitution is helping us. If you look at the 1954 Constitution, it helped us with the regional setting, where the 3 regions have their political structure, and we had the central region. Lagos was the capital of Nigeria then, and the regions were contributing to the central, and there were developments leveraging on the cash crop. You've heard about the North Pyramid in the north, the coal in the east. You've heard about the Oba Akran industrial region. There, healthy competition until in 1966 we brought in the destabilization of that regional government, brought in the unitary system, started creating states, and now we are more divided than ever.
All right.
So,
okay, quickly before we wrap up, on one hand there is a constitution, and on the other hand there is the judiciary, which is the hope of the common man. You mentioned the judiciary, and where do we begin to strengthen the judiciary so that the rule of law can actually be respected?
we have the 3 arms of government. Is allow that independence, and I don't think I want to discuss that right now, but I just want to point the attention of our great audience, particularly Nigerians. Cast back your mind, or you may go and search what led to the ousting of the former Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. And it's still the issue of unity, regional rivalry. We have not embraced meritocracy, even though the president was telling us in a broadcast recently that he's embarking on meritocracy, but there are allegations of nepotism and different kinds of things in the country. And until we all say this country belongs to us and we must move on together, then we start putting policies in place that will allow free flow of justice. You see, justice cannot be negotiated.
Okay.
It's either you have justice or you don't have justice. And it must be justice.
Right.
When you see things moving well, it must be justice. And there are several examples that we can leverage on. Look at the killings going on in the country, clashes allegedly between farmers and herders. In fact, the president just told us now that those who rear the cattle, they go around with stick. We agree. But these AK-47 carriers, where are they from? Who brought them in? We've had several arguments and things like that, that there are some rebels bringing ammunition from Libya. And I asked a simple question: why didn't they take the ammunition to Rwanda or to Ghana or to Niger Republic or to Benin Republic? Why Nigeria? You know, so when you put all this together, you discover at the end of the day that the most powerful arm of government is the executive arm of government. And that is because we run a unitary presidential system in the country. There are supposed to be checks and balances between the judicial, legislative, and the executive. But here we are today. And that is some of the arguments in favor of amending the constitution. Is talking about state police. Imagine now in the area of security, the governor of a state cannot give an order to the commissioner of police. The general police must give an order. The general police must consult the president. So when we have devolution of power to the states, then they can come up with their security architecture. Right now, even when you set up these local vigilante groups and security groups, can you arm them? You still need to go to the center. We are talking about the management of resources. Ondo State, my state, should be like California. Ondo State has the second largest deposit of bitumen in the whole world. But can that state maximize that potential? The answer is no. Because these mineral resources are under the exclusive legislative list. There's nothing you can do about it. So there are several issues. For those who think the amendment of the constitution is the solution. But for Jide Olajide Agbola Ologun, I don't think so. With this constitution we have now, if we fear God and allow justice, Nigeria can prosper. But I have said it, we are not united, we deny it, we say it's a no-go area. And it's an area we must settle if we must move forward. Because Amos chapter 3 verse 3. Amos chapter 3 verse 3 asks a very crucial question. Can two work together except they be agreed?
Thank you very much.
And you know the answer.
Thank you so much, Chide.
We end this very discussion. Thank you so very much.
Thank you so much for joining us.
God bless Nigeria.
God bless Nigeria.
Yeah,
Yes.
and that's our prayer all the time. Yeah, that's it. We're going to take a break now, but I want to remind you we still have something special coming your way alongside the lineup we have for you today. That will be after this break. Stay with us.
I can provide the money. I provide even the time. You remember I followed the team to play their match against Nchanga Rangers. We got to Lusaka. We were told by the NFA that the match will be played in Lusaka. We struggled there on the eve of the match to be told that we'll be playing in Nchanga. I had to beg for a flight to hire to charter at 27, fly us to Ndola at 10:30 at night, hired a bus from Ndola to take us to through Kitwe to Nchanga, only to find that the bus driver was drunk. So I drove the bus myself for 3.5 hours. We were stopped by armed robbers 3 times on the road. I had to bribe our way through into Kitwe. We got to Kitwe at 2:30 in the morning of the day of the match to find that the officials had left for Kitwe. So we had dropped the boys, made sure they rested quickly, drove the same bus back to Kitwe to look for the officials to bring them back at 7 in the morning to officiate. I was prepared to do that. You see, it's not just money. You need to know what problems these boys faced. We took the boys then on their way back had problem connecting in Addis. They were delayed in Addis for 4 days. I had to wire money for them to eat and so on. Only to find that they were being scratched by Group Captain Obakono, who said because they did not show up in their quarterfinals match against the Maiduguri side, Academy, at their quarterfinals match in Bauchi. I had to fight to get them to be allowed to play that match. They eventually qualified. With all that, when you look at it, it just occurred to me, what happened if these armed robbers, they opened fire on us near Kitwe? If I had been killed, what will I tell my children? And see, there has to be moderation in everything that one does. But if I hadn't been in that bus that day, the bus wouldn't have got through. They probably would have been waylaid. People would have been severely injured, if not killed. What for? Some of these things we are trying to do, we must try and dose it with some element of realism. Maybe we need to zone some of these things, as I was suggesting, to carve. You see, the cost of transportation too. How much it cost me in foreign exchange. We played Esperance in Tunisia. We had evidence that some of my boys took bribe to concede that match. Only to find that you go to the airport, an Italian flight was cancelled because of strike. I had to pay in foreign exchange. In those days, the whole team and the supporters to London to connect back to Lagos in hard currency. So Minister P.C. Achebe was there. He was one who said I should disband the whole team. Only to find that I could hardly find a good team to play in the finals at Challenge Cup. It was a miracle that we won that Challenge Cup. I dismissed 12 of my players. See, these things was too much for me. And I'm not getting younger. At the time of Abiola, I was in my early 40s. I'm 54 and a half now. See, these are the things that one must bear in mind. It's not just enough to put my name connected with something. I want to see that it is very well done. If the Abiola beeps, then Abiola has to be there. You see, I had to leave in Changa that afternoon. They played the match at 2 o'clock because they didn't want our boys to rest. 2 o'clock in the sun. Our boys managed to draw. Every man is one man. I mean, how many don't put on 4 man? I mean, I'm only one man. Abiola Babes has virtually returned in Concord Football Club, a professional league Division 2 club. They will carry on. Abiola's name will not be there. I think the name is already well known. Thank God. You are in Dakar. What do I think could anybody have wanted in his life? Only Nigeria refused to honor me, and I'm sure they will do that one day. But the whole of Africa has done so. What else do I want?
Nigeria on the march again. On the march again. Looking for Mr. President. On the march again. MKO is our man.
Political history in Nigeria cannot be complete without reference to June 12, 1993. This day is significant for 2 reasons. First, it was the day the first presidential election was held since the military coup of 1983. And second, it marked the day the freest and fairest election was said to have been conducted in Nigeria under the watch of local and international observers. The election was contested between 2 political parties, the National Republican Convention (NRC), which chose Bashir Tofa as candidate, and the Social Democratic Party (SDP), which presidential candidate was Moshood Kashimawo Olawale Abiola, simply called MKO. Bashir Tofa was an indigene of Kano State in northern Nigeria, while MKO hailed from Ogun State in southwest Nigeria. Both candidates were Muslims by faith. Before the results of the June 12, 1993 presidential election became officially certified, African Elections Database had announced that Moshood Abiola won with 8,243,209 votes, while his opponent Bashir Tofa scored 5,982,087. Abiola was presumed to have won majority votes in 20 of the then 30 Nigerian states, thereby securing the constitutionally required tally to be declared winner. But this never happened. Instead, on June 23, 1993, in a national broadcast by the then military head of state, Ibrahim Babangida, the results of the election were annulled. Subsequently, on August 27, 1993, Babangida stepped aside, making way for an interim national government headed by Ernest Shonekan, who, like Abiola, is an indigene of Ogun State. 3 months later, in November 1993, the interim government was overthrown by another military general, Sani Abacha. On June 11, 1994, Abiola declared himself president of Nigeria. This was met with instant resistance by the then military government, which declared Abiola wanted and accused him of treason.
Chief MKO Abiola flagrantly perpetuated acts which breached the laws of the land, but government in its magnanimity never gave him serious attention. His most recent action of declaring himself the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria incited the public to insurrection and attempting to topple the government by force with a view to installing himself as President, however led to his arrest by the law enforcement agents.
He was later arrested on June 23, 1994, and put into custody on the orders of General Sani Abacha, who detained him for 4 years in solitary confinement. Finally, on July 7, 1998, Abiola died the same day he was due to be freed from detention. In memory of MKO Abiola, the presumed winner of Nigeria's freest and fairest election, the June 12, 1993 presidential election, President Muhammadu Buhari conferred on him Nigeria's highest national honors, as well as declared June 12 Democracy Day and a public holiday.
MKO is the man.
You're welcome back to iBrand Daybreak Special Democracy Edition. And now finally on our discussion segment, history shows that at age 15, MKO Abiola was the leader of a band that was famous in performing in ceremonies in Abeokuta in 1952. He got a scholarship to study in the University of Glasgow, Scotland in 1960. Now, our guest for the next discussion will be talking to us about Abiola's legacies in sports and music. His name is Oba Adeoye. Thank you so much, Oba Adeoye, for joining us.
Yeah, it's my pleasure being with you this morning.
All right.
Welcome.
You look quite patriotic with the green and white thing. Happy Democracy Day.
Yeah, same to you.
All right. So
it's in a celebration mood.
Celebration.
Celebration mood.
Absolutely.
All right. So you'll be talking to us about Abiola's legacies in the world of sports and music. So what's it? Most people, I don't think most people know him for in the aspect of sports and music. It's more like a political and business line, no more of music and sport.
Yeah, Chief MKO Abiola was an all-rounder, if you ask me, and if you agree with me to use that word for him, and he was a man of many parts. If you study his biography very well, you will see that he had his hands in quite a number of industries: aviation, sport, education, banking, even food processing, agriculture, even media business. MKO Abiola had his hands into media business too. But of particular interest to this discussion is his interest in music and sports. There used to be a club in the Nigerian League back then, that Abiola Babes.
Yeah.
If you remember very well, for people who are old enough to remember that particular club. The club was doing so fine, and that was the club of Chief MKO Abiola. And if you go down memory lane, you will see how much investment this man single-handedly made into that particular club, while government, state government, federal government were, using state resources to sponsor football teams, football clubs. This man single-handedly started a club called Abiola Babes, and they did quite well in sport back then. There was a particular story shared before he died about a particular, I think, Champions League match that was to be played somewhere in Equatorial Guinea or so, that he had to follow his team down to that particular country. And on their way going, or before they left Nigeria, the Football Federation was telling them that, look, according to the fixtures, your club is also to play another match. The following day after the match, you are billed to play in Equatorial Guinea. He tried as much as possible to convince the Football Federation, but they wouldn't want to hear anything of sort. So MK Abiola just, followed the team to Equatorial Guinea. On their way going from the main town to the town where the match was going to take place, he said he hired a bus because the host team never really prepared anything for them. So he hired a bus from his pocket, and on their way going, they had to pass through some bushes and what have you. And on their way going, they were attacked by armed robbers. And it became a very serious issue that the robbers would not allow them to go unless they were given some things. So he said that he had to part with some dollars in order to pave the way for his club, And after the robbers had left, the driver was too intimidated that he couldn't continue with that journey. MK Abiola had to take the steering wheel himself, and he drove his team, his team boys to the venue of the match. That shows the passion that the man had for sports, And if you remember also that this man, he was so famously referred to as the pillar of sport in Africa. That shows how much investment the man had made into sport. His philanthropy is not just in the area of politics alone. He did quite a lot in the area of music and sport. For music, I don't know if you have the video. I see that you've been showing archival videos of MK Abiola or everything that has to do with June 12. I don't know if you had that particular video. There was a day, I think in 1991 or thereabout, on Lagos television. MK Abiola had to mount the stage, and did a number or two with Sashino Peters. You understand? He was trying to convince them that, look, I'm equally as good in this art as you. So let's share the stage together. And they were able to serenade, the audience in that hall. And it was all fun, seeing Chief MKO Abiola, the business mogul, the businessman of international repute, holding the microphone and entertaining guests. Wow. It was a spectacle.
Now, besides Abiola Babes and sports, was there, soccer, was there any other kind of sport Abiola ventured into?
His passion for football, seems to be more prominent than other sports. That does not mean to say that Chief MKO Abiola never invested in other sports. For a man to be titled pillar of sport in Africa, not pillar of football, not pillar of soccer in Africa, it shows that that man really invested more, in other sport than football. But football, being the king of sport, particularly in this part of the world, seems to be more prominent, and it seems to, caught more media attention while MK was around than maybe his foray into other forms of sport. The man is an all-rounder, like I said in my opening remarks, and when it comes to sport, he's also an all-rounder. So,
like the fact that MK Abiola is an all-rounder and termed the pillar of sports in Africa, I'm sure a lot of young persons has benefited from this person of MK Abiola. Do you think if he were to be alive, or he spent a longer time living, or probably the president of Nigeria, what would have been the future of sport? Let's just look into it that way. So
I'm not a seer, I am not a Babalawo, I'm not a Dibia, and I don't have any oracle to look into. But I can tell you that if you add 1 and 1 together, 1 plus 1 together in basic mathematics, not politics now, it's going to give you 2. So for us to have spoken so glowingly of this man's investment in music and sports goes to tell us that if the man was to have lived longer than he lived, the impact, even now that is no more, the legacies he left behind are still there for a lot of people to see. There are a lot of successful sport people. There are a lot of people that are into entertainment that have one good story or the other to tell about how MK Abiola sponsored their dreams, how MK Abiola helped them to become what they are today. One of them is Charles Oputa, popularly known as Charlie Boy.
Charlie Boy.
You know, MKO Abiola, if you ask Oga Charlie Boy, he will tell you a lot of stories about the good thing that MKO Abiola did for him. And so if the man was to be around, I'm very, very convinced, I'm very, very sure that he will have done much more than time permitted him to do.
All right, now, would you say that Abiola's passion for sports was born out of talents or just interest?
I will go with the latter more, you know, than the former, or maybe the two, passion and interest, because here is a philanthropist. Don't forget that the man is a philanthropist. I said it earlier that he had his hands in almost all areas of human endeavors.
Yeah.
So he was a man that wanted to see people excel at whatever they do. He was a man that, you know, seeing a young man who needed to be pulled up, MKO Abiola was always ready to do that for them. As young as we were when he was still around, we had, you know, a couple of stories about him, even from people that he had helped, you know. So his investment into music and sport is the two combined, passion and interest. Passion in the sense that for him as a musician, you know, he would want to see other musicians grow, even if he was not a professional musician. You know, there's someone that understands music. There's someone that you know, likes playing music. So when these young people trying to toe that line, it becomes almost an automatic thing for him to want to pull that such an individual up. So that's passion for him, and that's another interest in human growth and development. So for me, I would look at the two combined, but I think interest more than passion, so to say, if you ask me.
Okay, now, still talking about, okay, it's like you have a question for him.
Yeah, but I'll just let you go.
All right, now, Abiola now, for instance, started music. We've been talking about sport all this while. He started music at a very tender age of 9. In fact, we heard he formed or founded a band at the age of 9.
Yes.
What more can you tell us?
Okay, sorry, before you go there, we have to go on a short break now because there's something we need to show the audience immediately. So we'll just do that. We'll come back to Oba Adeoye after the short break.
Nigeria on the march again. On the march again. Looking for Mr. President. On the march again. MKO is our man.
Political history in Nigeria cannot be complete without reference to June 12, 1993. This day is significant for two reasons. First, it was the day the first presidential election was held since the military coup of 1983. And second, it marked the day the freest and fairest election was said to have been conducted in Nigeria under the watch of local and international observers. The election was contested between two political parties, the National Republican Convention (NRC), which chose Bashir Tofa as candidate, and the Social Democratic Party (SDP), which presidential candidate was Moshood Kashimawo Olawale Abiola, simply called MKO. Bashir Tofa was an indigene of Kano State in northern Nigeria, while MKO hailed from Ogun State in southwest Nigeria. Both candidates were Muslims by faith. Before the results of the June 12, 1993 presidential election became officially certified, African Elections Database had announced that Moshood Abiola won with 8,243,209 votes, while his opponent, Bashir Tofa, scored 5,982,000.
Well, you welcome back to the show. We are still discussing the person of MKO Abiola, his involvement in music and sports. Yes, we have Obade still with us in the studio. And before the short break, Michael Nats, you asked the question. He was just about to respond to the question.
Yes, I was talking about music and the age, very tender age at which he
15.
founded a band of 9, actually.
15.
No, 9. He founded a band.
He started playing music at 9. I think he founded the band at 15.
Okay, all right.
So, you know, before then, he was giving a hand to, you know, his father's cocoa business.
All right.
And when the business was no longer doing quite fine, you know, he needed to, you know, source other means of, you know, even supporting himself through his education. Remember, I went to Baptist Boys High School in Abeokuta, and at that point in time, I think he now went back to one of his talents, which is music, and then he was able to pull a couple of boys together to form his own band. But he never went professional. The band was just playing from party to party, and they would just give them food. And yeah, you know, some some little money.
It's like soccer in those days.
You understand? Playing for passion,
yeah.
not for the money. But he was also able to raise some, you know, little funds here and there, with which, you know, he also supported himself through school. So the man, like you said, so gifted, and I wouldn't know why Chief MKO Abiola never took it further to go professional in the line of music, but perhaps he will have been.
Which means he was fantastic.
According to history and according to stories that he shared himself, he was a good musician.
All right. Judging from everything that has been said, not just from you, from every other person that has come on this platform, Chief MKO Abiola, aside politics and business, he believed in the future of entertainment. So I'm looking at it, I'm trying to just look into, I just assume that he was alive or lived longer. So back to the present day Nigeria, the future of entertainment, you see a lot of entertainers complaining about this, that the government not putting so much effort, and now we see a man who single-handedly funded all of these things because he saw entertainment as the gold mine of the nation. So would you say that this present government is doing enough in terms of entertainment, just as Chief MKO Abiola would have done?
Don't forget that the Nigeria of today is not the Nigeria that MKO Abiola lived in terms of population, in terms of sources of entertainment, in terms of technology, in terms of quite a lot of other things. But having said that, we're just trying to, you know, discuss this hypothetically, that if MKO Abiola were to be around, he will have also grown with time, you know, to be in this, you know, present Nigeria we are talking about. And one thing about passion is that passion hardly dies. You know, passion within you may go to sleep, it may be hibernating, but the moment it gets that, you know, contact, it comes back alive. So, like you said, he was a man who had, you know, good passion for music, starting a band at the age of 15, single-handedly starting and funding a football club. If he were to be around, I'm very sure that he will have done much more, you know, in those two areas, particularly in entertainment. Now, talking about present-day government, as much as they are just trying to, the industry has grown so big that it appears like it's beyond the government right now. Because if you look at the number of employment that industry generates on a yearly basis, ordinarily one would have expected that any forward-thinking or forward-looking government would quickly tap into that industry and see how we can generate some, you know, economic returns from that industry. But as it is right now, from what we have, what appear like a structure in the industry now, the government is not in control, so to say. The government has not really done enough in that area. Most of the investment or most of the effort in that industry are self-help efforts. You understand? You have entrepreneurs here and there. I don't know. There was a time that the last administration started something like a fund for movie makers for the entertainment industry. I've forgotten that particular bank. There was a particular bank that they created for that purpose. I don't know how far that has gone. I don't know if this government continued from that point that the last government stopped. So for me, I would love to see, more of government involvement in the entertainment industry, particularly in creating a structure for the industry. Look at our movie industry. It's so humongous that it's like we are just wasting resources in that area. Look at India. Look at what India generates from movie industry alone. There are other smaller African countries that they smile to the bank on a yearly basis with what they generate from movie. And in those industries, in those countries rather, they still look up to Nigeria as a big brother. So if Nigeria is not generating enough from that industry, then it means that something is practically wrong. A time I traveled to Kenya, East Africa, for a conference of communication scholars and journalists. And we had a meeting at the UNICEF office in Nairobi. So now we're coming back. I was fortunate to sit beside a man, I've forgotten his name. He's one of the biggest investors, media investors in Rwanda. He had a number of newspaper titles, radios and TV under his control. And the man was trying to tell me about Lagos when he heard I'm from Nigeria. So he was trying to tell me about Idumota, that he traveled to Idumota every now and then. Okay. I said, to do what? He said he will come here to buy our movies because that's what people enjoy over there. You understand? So if, it's like an export for us. Yeah. But that export, how much of the revenue comes directly to the pocket of the government? That's a big question.
Big question.
That the government needs.
All right, thank you.
$1 million question.
Thank you so much, Oba Aderi. I know you have a lot of things to say, but then for the want of time, we have to wrap up this segment now.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay then.
All right, now that's how we wrap up this particular segment. We have another segment for you. We promise that it's going to be an amazing one today. It's Democracy Day, and I'm sure you're as glad as we are. So we'll take a short break now. We'll come back for another segment. So stay with us.
Powerful looks command respect, they say. The perfect body, the perfect grooming, and ultimately the perfect skin. Looks, style, and grooming makes the ultimate man. Found a ridiculously easy way to make my skin always feel epic. My name is Neo. I found Blemiviv, and now my skin finally makes sense.
June 12 is a period in our collective history as a nation where Nigerians of all tribes and tongue came together regardless of their differences, regardless of their ethnic background, religious background, and so forth, to elect their leader, whose mandate was unfortunately overturned by the then military head of state.
You see, it was a terrible experience then. There was a crisis all over Nigeria, especially in Ibadan here, which I witnessed because I was I experienced it. Everything were upside down. There was no food, no water, no electricity, no transport. Everybody was in standstill. And it was a terrible. Here is a man, we all voted for him. At the end of the day, they annulled the election, and there was crisis all over Nigeria. I was then a civil servant, you understand, and so we were on strike. You know, we couldn't go to anywhere. So that was the experience. It was a terrible experience then.
1993 June 12 is unforgettable role in Nigeria because our candidate was not announced as he won the election, so which is very painful to us.
That June 12 is a short memory that I can never forget in my life. I left this way by 11 o'clock that I'm going to, I was going to prepare for the election.
That June 12, the experience was so terrible. I have to trek down from Ogbede Dozen here, so without getting any vehicle. So the experience was so terrible by then.
1993 June 12. That was aftermath of the election that was annulled by the military government. It was horrible. It's not what you can pray for again to happen, because then everybody was running ears from ups, down, left, right.
Well, interestingly, for some of us that were a little bit younger then, or relatively young then, we were not oblivious of the fact that something was really happening in the country, because the atmosphere was indeed very charged then, and at some point we had that conscious.
Yes, you're welcome back to the show. Well, this is where we call it a wrap on the show today. But before we do that, we'd like to say a big thank you to everyone who has stayed put, you the viewers. Without you, there's no iBrand Daybreak. And also to our amazing guests, starting from Mr. Debo Adeniran, Chairman Kako, Mr. Niyi Babade, filmmaker, documentary maker, journalist, Mr. Jide Olugu, legal practitioner, and Oba Adeoye. We'd like to say thank you for joining us on the show today, and to our amazing production team, thank you. To our amazing viewers, thank you. To my amazing colleague in the building, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so
and thank
much.
you to everyone who has stayed. Like I said, without you, there is no iBrand Daybreak. Before we leave, we have to wrap this up with a quote from MKO Abiola. It's written down here. It says, "People of Nigeria, our time is now. You are the repository of power in the land." Take that again. People of Nigeria, our time is now. You are the repository of power in the land. Coming from Chief MKO Abiola. Join us on Monday for another amazing, super amazing. You know, it gets better by the day. Interesting segment on Monday morning by 9 a.m. on the dot. My name is Margaret Opera.
And don't forget that tomorrow morning, you're going to have this again. That's Saturday, because it's a special day. You're going to have this again. Thank you so much. Michael, not happy, what?
Democracy Day.
Democracy Day.
Enjoy.